Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm just listening to all the backlash from, everyone who's responding to Kyrie Irving's IG live last night. It's a lot of people having things they had, to say, and one thing that's consistent that I'm hearing from both of the major networks and their representatives is that they're still saying that Kyrie Irving is anti-vax. Now, one can conclude without listening to his 25 minutes of speaking that he would be anti-vax. And I've got on here many times and called myself calling him out for uh, roping his brothers in to this fight of being anti-vax. But when listening to him speak, I came to the conclusion that he was just kind of on the fence about where he is because he has been made aware of some people who are not able to work. You know what I mean? Because of their stance against anti-vax. I'm guessing these are people that are close to him who have asked him to speak out. Now, see, that's the thing. I believe that he's being torn, and I've said that. I think that listening to him, he was kind of giving us both sides of his conundrum, and I think that's the problem. A lot of times for people, they find themselves stuck in a thought. You know what I mean? They get stuck in between two conundrums where they try to find balance there, and it's like they can't move forward unless they find exactly the balance that they're looking for. Kyrie comes off as a type of mind like that to me, and listening to him talk, it's like he was mulling over two thoughts that he can't quite make a decision on because neither one of the sides really give him the consequences that he's hoping to receive, and he leaves people out and ropes people in. It's just a conundrum that he's placed into, and most importantly, there's a pressure on him from the media that is basically trying to push a narrative about the vaccine. And I think we all are starting to see through this particular situation and how they're responding to his 25 minutes that agenda is real. Now, I'm not necessarily against the vaccine at all. In fact, I think I've gone on record thinking as saying that you should do your research on your own, come to a conclusion of your own, and then probably take it. That's what I would say. Like, I honestly think that it would be safe because of the singular word asymptomatic. All right, so because it can live in healthy bodies, I just feel like if we're gonna fight this thing right, we gotta do what we can, and this is what we got today. Maybe it'll be better tomorrow, but this is what we got today, and that's how I approach it. But I'm not saying that I don't want people to come to their own conclusion. I think that if we're gonna fight this thing effectively, we can't afford to let people take too long in coming to that conclusion, which would ultimately force them anyway. So it's an impossible conundrum. It's based on the specifics of the virus that we're fighting, and solely that. But I understand people who don't like being forced to do nothing and want to make their own conclusions and want to come to the conclusion that I've come to because I was able to think about it and come to it, as opposed to someone just saying, "Yo, I don't care what conclusion you come with me because if you want to live." It's like, let us come to the conclusion that we want to survive. So I understand those people who feel that way. I also understand the people who are just going to be contrarians regardless. And if everybody's going this way, they're going that way because it makes them feel like they're smarter. And I don't believe that I agree with them or that the conclusion they've come to. If that's the conclusion they've come to, I just think that they see two options, see where everybody's going, and want to go the other way. So I think it's a lot of people out there like that. And we got to remember there's a lot of people out there who also just want to see the world burn. You know what I mean? Just like they said in The Dark Knight, I mean, it ain't deeper than that. Some people want to see people dying all around them, and they, that'll be good enough for them. So those are also individuals who don't want to be, vaccinated in some cases. So we just got to be real honest about what it is we're dealing with, what the conundrums are, and the impossible circumstances we find ourselves in trying to deal with this thing. Um, you know, there are going to be people who believe things very strongly, especially as it pertains to lives being lost. People who've lost people already, they're going to be very, very offended by the fact that you're not taking the vaccine, because of it or what have you. They may feel that way. It's a lot of different type of people, and that's why it's so important that we kind of be patient with one another and patient with those above us who are trying to get us to save ourselves. You know what I mean? And I think that's ultimately the goal. Do I like the agenda of pushing the vaccine and the idea that they would push an agenda? I do not. I do think that there's a good chance that who's behind this agenda may actually just simply want to survive. And so may not necessarily be one of those things where we are on the right side of things for bucking it if this virus is indeed what we know it to be. So that's all I'm saying. I'm like, I'm personally not one who wants to force people to live. If you want to die, I'm not going to be the guy to tell you, you know what, this is not the way to go, because I don't know what you're feeling on the inside. And most importantly, I don't know the circumstances that you're running from. I don't know if you're facing something that I can't fathom, or the consequences of the suffering you're going to face may be worse than the instantaneous situation that you're facing. I don't know. I'll leave that to your loved ones. Your loved ones will tell you, and yourself will tell you, and your spirit, and your understanding, and your God will tell you what you should do for yourself in any various situations. But what I'm saying is, if your body can weaponize someone else's body, and it's out of your hands, it's just simply out of your hands. Your choices, or your patience in trying with yourself and trying to make these choices. In that meantime, you could have weaponized your body, caught in the virus, given it to somebody else, and letting that thing continue to survive. So it's like, I never lost sight of what it is that we're dealing with. And I'm able to see both. Like the conundrum of not wanting my freedoms taken. My freedoms mean everything to me, just like your freedoms mean everything to you. But I don't know what freedoms are without a life. I don't know what my personal freedoms are good for if I'm in a box. I just don't really know if we can prioritize choice over that of actual survival. And I think that's where the conundrum lies, and I don't think some people really are ready to embrace the reality of that. And that's not for me to chastise them about. What I will say is the consequences of that could be dire for all of us. You know what I mean? And I think somebody somewhere has to be able to drive that point home in some way. Like, we're not fighting against a government or necessarily some type of invasion of some sort. No, this is just simply a virus that doesn't discriminate, nor does it care, nor does it, it don't care. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to take nobody's choices away. I'd hope that after hearing what I had to say, you would make the right decision for yourself. I think that that's the way we need to approach one another. Even though the situation is dire, it's not dire to the point where the virus, if you touch somebody, they drop dead. Like, you know what I mean? There are levels to what it is that's actually possible. And I think if it were something that was much more gruesome of a virus, and this is gruesome enough, don't get it twisted, but some of the stuff we've seen in the horror movies, if it were that bad, then you would see a different type of enforcement on this as well. And look, we didn't think something like this was possible 5 years ago. A lot of people believed in that kind of stuff, but it was just a conspiracy theory to the masses, right? We are dealing with something unprecedented. So applying or ideals that worked for our grandfathers and our great grandfathers because they were fighting for freedom against something that isn't this, applying their logic because they were so valiant in what they were dealing with, that was yesterday. They didn't have an internet. They didn't have the circumstances we're dealing with. They don't have the structure of our earth, and they certainly didn't have this damn virus. The viruses that they dealt with, they had to deal with on their own in their way. We have our own battle with this particular thing, so let's set the mood here and get it right, I think. But do your own homework first, that's the most important thing. Don't just take something because somebody told you to take it. You know what I mean? Don't just take something because somebody told you to take it. Come to good conclusions. And I think that that's what a lot of people like Kyrie Irving are encouraging, that people be given the time to come to those conclusions. This is not a flesh-eating virus that you're gonna, someone touches you, you explode and stuff. It's gorish. It's not. No. It's bad enough to where we need to consider what it can do. But I don't think we need to be killing each other for not getting what it is that I just explained for the last 10 minutes. It's like not everybody's gonna get it. They just, even the most obvious thing, people ain't gonna get. It's just what it is, man. full compliance, man, I don't even know what that means. And that's essentially what these corporations and what our government is demanding is full compliance. And my thing is, you got to attach it from a sense of care, a psychological standpoint. There's a lot of ways we can destroy ourselves through this virus or through just civil unrest if we choose to. You know, we're sitting up here trying to force each other to take vaccines. If it turns into all-out war, what? COVID ain't the only thing we're going to be worrying about, is each other. You know, and we got a lot of things that we're upset about at one another. Some things that we haven't quite dealt with. And I'll tell you this, man, people will find a way to discriminate against each other for anything. This feels like a big hoax, not hoax, but like a big demonstration of an example for us to see how ridiculous we are when it comes to something like this. Something that didn't even exist 2 years ago. Now we're allowing it as a subject to separate us. I just think that's like a cruel joke being played on us. Just like the rules required for us to sacrifice and think of one another in order to survive. And the fact that this thing can live in our bodies as we're healthy. It's like a metaphor, right? It's a metaphor for not cheating the game or whatever game you're playing, for following the rules of what it is, for being unselfish and staying true and staying within the confines of what it is you're supposed to do. A lot of people live our lives. We live our lives. We skate around those lines. We do what we have to get over. Essentially, what COVID is doing is forcing us to stay honest. Honest about how we handle it. Honest about how we practice into our hygiene. Honest about how we handle these conundrums. You know, so if you pay attention, the universe will show you something. And I think COVID has been one huge lesson, one huge experiment in the sky for the universe, of the Lord, or whom you believe, to yet again show us all an example of how we'll allow ourselves to be separated by anything. It's funny. This is really funny. Now it's the vaccine. So it's the practice of how we choose to treat each other overall. It's what it really comes down to. How we approach one another and our differences overall. It's reflected in this. If we had better practices leading up to this, we would have more compliance. We would have more understanding, and more people would have convinced one another to take this thing, rather than sitting on each side of one another, fighting one another. And I will tell you this. There comes a time where we have to understand, and as I alluded to, following our grandfathers and great-grandfathers, we got to understand, and I'm driving this point home, they were doing things that they needed to do for the times they were in. The fighting, the political structure, even the way that they wrote their laws. It was for the leverage and times that they were in. It was for the prospering of things for the times they were in. The power games that were being played and the times they were in. We don't do what they do because we have different substances of life. Things that we have that they didn't have. Interaction tools like what I'm holding in my hand. They didn't have this stuff. They were fighting for their freedoms without any communication. Man, there was no way to get these messages across to be aware of your enemy. That dude was 3 months away. As soon as you see him, you gotta kill him. That's not the world we're in. We got to act like we are in communication with one another and make sure that the information that we need gets to one another in ways that we can palate, that are palatable for us. Not just take it. And these medias and these different people who create these narratives and these agendas, they spend more time trying to manipulate us and guilt trip us, and using our favorite athletes to make these elaborate, statements about what should and should not be done. That's not the best way to get it done. Just not. It just further separates people. You can see that in the comment section. These conversations ain't helping. And as far as them specifically in this particular situation, saying that Kyrie's taking a stance in one way or another, or that he's incoherent and try to say he was crazy, I listened to 25 minutes of what the man said. He was going back and forth. He was mulling over something. I saw a man processing in real time. He was letting me in. He didn't have to be concise. He didn't have a damn script like y'all. Just like I don't. He was going off the top of the dome. And he's not a politician. He don't speak his words. If he say he want to be the voice of the people, maybe he come back and say, you know what, that probably wasn't the best way to put it. But I heard so and so say that, and this sounds kind of cool, so I'm gonna say that now. You think I don't understand that as a consumer when I listen to Kyrie Irving directly? You really think I think he thinks he's gonna be the voice of the people? No, he was just saying something that loosely represented what it is he's actually trying to mull over. He would like to be what it is that he's trying to become. That's all it is. When you look at Kyrie Irving, this is somebody who would like to be something he's trying to become, which is a deeper thinker, someone who has understanding, but there's more learning to do. But he has to understand to dumb it down for himself, make it so that others can be inclusive in what it is that you're thinking of, so we know why you disappear for 3 months at a time playing basketball. Not necessarily why, but that you're doing it for a reason that makes sense to you. Clear for us to see, like last night. That's why I say to any athlete, a guy like James Harden, I know contracts and these guys and their their agendas behind you and the image of their business more so. You don't want to say everything. You don't want to come out here and just show your backside and all that. But certain statements directly to the public without the presence of the middleman is so very necessary. Never been more necessary than last night with Kyrie talking to us. Being able to effectively hear everything he had to say and then watch how they try to maneuver it, massage it, paint it, ignore certain parts, take little splices. I listened to every word that man said. He didn't sound crazy to me. Nah, he didn't. Did I agree with everything he said, the conclusions he came to? I actually did, most of them. Because it sounded like the same kind of stuff I be saying. I don't want to leave nobody hanging. That's the reality of it. A lot of us actually care. We don't have an agenda. See, that's the thing. People who, and this is something that I've never heard before. This is just something I came up with. So if the wisdom don't align, please forgive me. This is just what I'm saying. But some of the people who tell you to stand on one thing, stand on that. The reason why they're able to stand on stuff without actually changing their thought in a lot of these circumstances is because they have agendas behind them that force them to stand on some shit, even if the information changes, even if their opinions changes, even if the environment around you changes. I'm gonna tell you something. I'll stand on certain things because certain things should never change. But as it pertains to information, things that form my opinion and how I'm talking about somebody, when I find out something new, I'm going to adjust it. I'm going to adjust my thinking. I'll get up here and tell you I was wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And if that information turns out to be false, I'll get up here and tell you I was wrong about that too. Because everything's fluid. Things change. I don't have to stand on some shit when I find out it ain't right. Just because I said it out of my mouth. If I said it out of my mouth, I could say something else too. Be more fluid. Let me rephrase that. Understand that humans are more fluid than you play us for. When you do these little narratives and you do these little different things where you try to paint the pictures and all that. People can change their mind. People can mean words that don't come out of their mouth necessarily because they misspoke. You don't have to hang on every word they say necessarily. Though it would be nice if you could. I'm not going to lie. It would be nice if we could. But sometimes people misspeak. And if you don't leave room for that, you're going to have a hard time communicating. The media ain't going to let you do that. They ain't going to let you know that, though. They're going to hang on every word. Why? Because every word they can manipulate. They can take your word and change the meaning if they hang on to every word. As opposed to zooming out and listening to the spirit of what is being said. Looking at the body language of seeing a person shake their head when they said something wrong. Like, I didn't mean that. I'll say something else. No, they'll keep that word before they shook their head, and they will take that word and they'll make it sound like it's something that fits the agenda that they got going on. What I heard from Kyrie Irving's mouth was that he's not anti-vax. He's just mulling over what it is that's best for him. He's not retiring. He's just trying to figure out what's the best way to go without regretting whatever's going to happen next. And look, I'll tell him just like I tell anybody else, bro, you got to hurry up if you're going to make a decision that's affecting other people. That's not something that you take your time and mulling over. That's something that all of us have to reach to when we realize that we're focusing on something that affects others. and we're taking our time with what we got going on. It hurts other people. That's something he gonna understand as he grows. Grows. As he alluded to at the beginning of the video, when he was talking about certain things that he said that he wish he could have not said, that he felt was stupid. It's just a lot of stuff that they ain't gonna play. They not gonna let you hear that. They're not gonna let you hear that he said that he understands that people have lost their lives and all that. That he understands that he's not anti-vax. Like, it's a lot of stuff, man. And so people like myself who really, really understood where he was coming from may not ever agree with how he's going about it, but I understand where he's coming from because he communicated. I can give him the pass that he's asking for. And that's a lesson for me too, because I don't communicate very well. Even though when I do communicate, I usually get what it is that the favor would be. But for whatever reason, it's not in me to communicate. Maybe I should be docked for that, maybe I should not. But when I see that in somebody else, I have a little sensitivity for that. Because I know what fuels me to be non-communicative. And what that is has nothing to do necessarily with anything outside of my own head. So I'm sensitive to that. And I think we need, if we're going to grow to understand one another, we need to start being more sensitive to those types of things. It's very easy to look at a person and say, he's weak, he doesn't conform with the status quo, he doesn't necessarily think like us. But some of the greatest people who've ever done anything have been people who've thought differently than everyone else. That's why things changed, because they had free thinkers and enigmatic minds that taught us how to follow whatever it is that we're now following. They laid the blueprint for the new stuff. And everybody continue to be in a loop, we'll never evolve. Let the Kanyes do what they do. Let the Kyries do what they do. Because when they come to whatever conclusion they're waiting to figure out, we're going to follow each and everything that they've come to the conclusion of. That's what I've learned. Because I remember when Kanye was just a backpack rapper making beats. Now he's a $5 billion dude who's changing the world in a million different ways, including your feet. So let's relax. Let's just calm down. Let Kyrie become who he's going to become. He's in his 20s right now. He don't have it all together. And some of the stuff he's doing, he needs to do differently. But so is some of us. So as well for myself. So that's what it is, man. That speak from the heart. And that's where we're headed. I don't need no damn script. Yeah, it's nice to have notes to be accurate. But coming from the heart to get you understand where I'm coming from. Not no damn script. That's all I got, man. My name is BDO44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.